I am about to get super vulnerable here. Now, if you've been following me over these past couple of years, you know that I've been vulnerable about lots of aspects of my life. But lately, I feel like the kind of work that I'm doing in myself is no longer the big stuff that happened in my life, but more the subtle nuances that I'm beginning to observe. Repeating patterns that really are holding me back from changing. And it's uncomfortable to be vulnerable. It's uncomfortable to share this, but I also know that if I don't do it, then how can I expect other people to open up and be vulnerable about themselves? Vulnerability is our way forward into this new paradigm that we are building. And if we want to be leading with love and compassion and just really, truly understanding what it means to be unified as a collective between us, all of us as humans, and with Mother Earth and all her inhabitants, and even beyond that, then it's really important that we find those places within ourselves where we're holding ourselves back and sharing with one another so we can learn from one another. So I had an amazing weekend with one of my containers. It's a super powerful group. And I was feeling great going into this container. I just came through a period where I transformed a lot of energy and transmuted. Things were going well, things were moving forward. And then in the process of being in this container, I don't know, I started to feel unsafe. I started to feel separate, different, unsure, not really stable. And I didn't know where this feeling was coming from. It wasn't coming from the external. I mean, I could always blame the external, you know, we can always find something to blame, but it's never about the external. It's always about the internal. And I was trying to figure out what about this container was triggering a part of me, an inner child wound that had not yet been healed. So in this feeling of feeling disconnected from others, I realized that I was feeling disconnected from myself. And I was feeling unsafe because of this lack of connection. Excuse me. This lack of connection to myself and others. But it was really this core wound of mine that I was tracing back as I sat and reflected on this. That goes back to being raised in an all-girls school. 13 years of my life, from kindergarten to 12th grade, I spent in a Catholic all-girls school. Now, there are pros and cons to this. It really advocated for strong female leadership and, you know, has really promoted such amazing things about educating women in science and math and the arts, drama and singing and, you know, all the wonderful things you would want out of the arts. And I, you know, there's so much that I value about that education. And at the same time, I was always the other because it was a Catholic school and I wasn't Catholic. And while there were other non-Catholics there, there weren't many Indians. And there was about an Indian per class. And there is this, you know, I think lack of fitting in that I felt from an external perspective because of my heritage. However, I felt like there was more to it than that. I always felt really different in every way. Now, there was the aspects that were cultural in the sense that I didn't grow up with the same references that a lot of Americans and people in Western society grew up with. I didn't watch the same TV shows all the time, or listen to the same music and eat the same food and celebrate the same holidays. And so that always made me feel different in its own way. And then there were aspects of my upbringing and my family that also made me feel different, which were the fact that aside from the food and the cultural things, I came from a house where there was a lot of abuse happening. And these things were just not talked about. And because everything looked good on the outside, that there was never a question of what was happening on the inside of a house. And then there were other compounding factors that added to this. I had a brother and sister who were dying of genetic diseases. They were, just in a different world in that sense that they were dealing with losing their bodily functions rather than growing like a normal child. And so if I would mention to a classmate that I had a sibling, I mean, even at a young age, in like second grade, I remember this instance, like this girl being like, oh, you have a brother? We should set up, my sister with your brother. And I'm thinking, first of all, I wasn't even thinking about those kind of things at that age, much less like thinking about that for my brother. Because that wasn't even a possibility, and I didn't understand what was going on. Nobody was explaining it to me, and I didn't know how to talk to other people about it. So there's lots of reasons where I felt maybe I was holding myself back. I wasn't sharing who I was. I was just really not in myself and disconnected. I was disconnected from others because I couldn't relate to them, and I was disconnected from myself because I didn't know what was going on and I didn't have the answers, and I was confused, and I was a child. I didn't have that kind of guidance growing up. It's interesting because there was the lack of guidance that I received at home. My parents were busy. They were physicians, and they would be gone most of the day, and I was raised by nannies, and it was a revolving door of nannies because of the verbal and emotional, and I don't know if it was physical. There was definitely physical abuse going on, but I don't know if it was going on towards my nannies. There was just a lot happening, and some of the basic things in life I was never taught, like how to brush your teeth and when to brush your teeth, and about my growing female body and what happens to it. And between not being told this at home, between an Indian culture that doesn't really talk about these things and a Catholic school that certainly didn't talk about these things, I just didn't have a lot of basic knowledge, and it was a lot that I kind of had to pick up on the fly. We didn't have the internet when I was young. And sometimes I would kind of like hide in the library and read about things, but these were like medical books, and it's just really fascinating. I have a daughter, she's 7 years old, and like, just the process of raising her, of everything that I do with her and what I have to teach her has really taught me about the ways that I had to raise myself. And that lack of kind of support in my life made me feel disconnected from myself, because I was always questioning, am I doing it right? Is this what I'm supposed to do? What do other people do? Should I be doing what they do? So there was this other part of me too that just felt really different. I didn't feel like I was part of Earth. I didn't feel like I was here. I didn't know what this thing called life was and why I was here. And I just was growing up with so much religious indoctrination all around me, from Catholic school to Hindu philosophy to many rituals and practices, and I just didn't identify with any of it. And yet, you know, it's interesting because I do identify with it now, but back then I didn't understand anything, and I'd ask a lot of questions and there were no answers for me. I just didn't feel human, and like, to not know how to explain this to people, you know, was really confusing. I mean, it was like basic things like brushing my teeth. I mean, my hair was so uncontrollable as a child. I had this like really curly, really thick hair, and my mom just chopped it all off because, you know, I looked like a boy, which I really disliked, but I can understand now. She didn't know how to maintain it. She didn't know what to do with it. And as I got older, it got easier in my 20s and 30s, because then my hair like became more wavy instead of curly, and you know, it just was more tame. And it's been interesting because now I am in this position where, after having my daughter, I don't know what happened, but it's like my hair went back to the hair that I had in my childhood. It's frizzy, it's curly, it's out of control. There is nothing I can do to it. If I go to a hairdresser, they can fix it for like an hour, and then it just goes back into its natural state. It has its own mind. And so you know, I just have to let it go. I have to let those things go. I never learned how to do things like makeup properly, and I taught myself, and, you know, I like just figured these things out on my own. And so when I'm in these collectives sometimes, and we talk about things like how to present yourself on social media and what you need to do to gain followers and how to build a brand and present yourself, I struggle because I don't feel or look like anyone else. And these are things I've always struggled with in my life. And I think that is part of where this unsafety was coming from, because I can see that there is this presentation style that I don't fit into that norm, and I don't really have a desire to either. Sometimes I'll, you know, dress myself up and I'll look pretty and I love it, and it's just, you know, I feel really amazing and powerful. And then there's other times where I just, you know, wash my hair and stick it into a braid to keep it tame so it doesn't go crazy, and whatever, it's fine. And, you know, I don't want to do the things of like getting extensions in my hair and lashes, and like, it looks beautiful on other people, and I appreciate that they do that for themselves, but it's not what I want to do. And yeah, it can make me feel kind of separate and strange when I'm in containers, and sometimes, you know, these things are discussed and there's some sort of expectation on that. And while I totally believe in like presenting yourself with the best foot forward, I also believe in being authentic. And sometimes authentic means being messy, because life is messy. Life is messy. If it wasn't messy, we wouldn't create. I mean, I love this example that a spirit guide once gave, which is like, you think about an artist studio. if you walked into an artist studio and it was like perfect, clean, and everything is just like put away properly and there's no paint stains anywhere, and like you would be like, oh, this is a beautiful place. But if you walk into a studio and you see these paint splatters and like you see things like, you know, like there's action happening where it's like a beautiful creation of messiness, you know that there is something being created, that there is something happening. There's so much beauty in that rawness. There's so much beauty in that messiness. And I think it's about really accepting all parts of our life, including the messy parts. And maybe sometimes we have to present the messy parts. Maybe sometimes we should present the messy parts. Whew. So when I was thinking about this disconnection and where I was feeling disconnected from myself, is because I was holding myself back in this container. I was holding back my magic. I hear the way they talk about me and the way they give reference to me, and I can see that it's like 1/1000th of who I am. And it's because of what I'm projecting to them. I'm not sharing my gifts with them. I'm not sharing my magic. And I was trying to figure out why. Why didn't I feel safe to do so? And it came down to the fact that, you know, even when I was in this all-girl Catholic school and scared to show myself, it was what I was doing. I was staying quiet because when I spoke, it was judged. When I would share these weird thoughts, or it was judged or condemned at times. And when I would talk about things that were happening in my life, like not feeling safe at home or having a brother or sister who was dying, it was met with silence and uncomfortability because those were subjects you don't talk about. So I kept myself back, I hid myself, and I covered my life up from such a young age with drugs and alcohol. And that continued well into my 30s and even into my 40s. And I hid myself. I hid behind, you know, this other stuff. I used substances to allow me to talk and express myself. And often that would come out as anger or shame or just, you know, it wasn't my authentic self. It was just me and the stuff I was bottling up and not dealing with. So holding back my magic and holding back who I am has been a trend in my life. And I see myself doing it in certain ways even now, where I'm scared to speak my truth in some circles. I don't know why, that I feel like I can't. It's an old programming that I am holding on to, that I am in this moment right now rewiring. And I was trying to think, so, okay, so that's part of it. That's definitely part of it, sharing this magic and not feeling like I could as something from my past, and therefore I'm not doing it in the present because I'm scared of being rejected. I'm scared of not being accepted. I'm scared of being thought of as different and feeling uncomfortable and making others uncomfortable because I speak the blunt truth and the messiness of life. And I don't believe that we have to be perfect all the time. And I don't believe in perfectionism, and I'm definitely trying to unlearn my perfectionist ways, but in that sense of, it's interesting how it can still be carried out just because we do this stuff on social media. And so telling myself that I don't have to be that perfect sense in what other people are expecting on social media either. If I do a cooking video and my hair is a mess and I'm just doing it because I feel inspired in that moment and the energy feels right, I'm going to go for it, and I don't have to look and be a certain way. So fearing being judged, fearing this lack of acceptance, fearing my uniqueness. And, so I, as a child, would shy away, and I would not speak up and not say anything. And then this goes back even further, because what I was doing was I was hiding. I was hiding from myself, and I was hiding from my family, because being seen in my family meant that something would be said, something would be judged, something would be dictated, something would be just, it wasn't good. And so I was constantly hiding. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. And I was hiding in my room, hiding in the shadows. There were times I hid in the closet. I spent a lot of time in the closet in the dark because it was safe. I was alone. And I think I grew up just feeling like I couldn't express myself. And so I created this shadow and this puppet of myself that I've been playing out in my life of who I'm supposed to be. And it's just really interesting to see it come forward in these containers where, we are held and we are safe and nobody is judging me. But rather than sharing who I am and being vocal and speaking my truth, I'm holding myself back and then feeling disconnected and lonely. And who I'm being disconnected and lonely from is me. Because I am not standing in my truth and I am not standing in my authentic power. So in this moment right now, I'm going to rewire myself and create a new belief system for myself. Because if I don't change this core belief, then this will be propagated and perpetuated in my life in numerous situations in many ways. So I have been working with my inner child at various ages, the age of 3, the age of 7, the age of 14, and letting her know she can speak, and letting her know that she is seen and she is loved for who she is, and letting her know that she is safe, and that if she is rejected by the outside public, I am here to cradle her, me, this future version of her that has come this far. I am the one who is going to support her. And in doing so, I rewrite my past because she is able to express herself. And in doing that, I change in this moment now, changing my future self, because I am expressing myself, and my future self is this version of me that is confident and authentically expressing her voice and opinions without fear of anybody or anything else. Because if I'm wrong, I can be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong, but it's better to speak my truth and be wrong than it is to hold myself back. So, in this moment of now, by the power of my I am presence, I, Vinita Kumari Gupta, declare that I am safe, that I am unique, that I am different, that I am breaking cycles, not only within my ancestry, within myself, within my way of being, but also in society and the way that we operate, that there is no one way of doing things. And although what may have worked for somebody else does not necessarily have to be my way, I am finding my own path. I am paving my own road. I am walking in the direction that I need to walk. And I am capable of doing this. That I will resonate with those who resonate with me. That I am capable, I am confident. I am unique, and I have unique magic to share with this world. And if I don't share my magic, not only do I lose out, but the entire world loses out. So I, Vanita Kumari Gupta, make a commitment to speak my truth and to stand in my power and to stand in my uniqueness. And if that separates me from the pack, then I am leading my own new pack forward. And there is nothing wrong with that. It is the gift that I am giving. I thank you for listening to me, and thank you for watching me. I hope you're able to find your way and your magic, because we are all special and unique beings.